Please welcome Linda Moore.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll do this way. I'm so glad to be here tonight in Alabama, and I am so thankful and appreciative to travel in Florida and now in Alabama with Luca Bocci. Mr. Bocci has been inspirational for those who hear. We all know this, don't we, as Americans? And yet, to hear an Italian man come and tell us the truth so boldly, it's not us bragging on ourselves as we've been made to feel. It's a matter of fact that this country is exceptional. As he said, the AP standards for history are being changed right now if the social engineers can get by with it. On the national level, an AP Advanced Placement History test was rewritten. The man in charge is David Coleman, who also wrote Common Core State Standards. We're here to focus on Common Core State Standards tonight, but there are many other problems that come into the system that's being set up. AP history tests have been going on for a long time before we heard of Common Core. So it's not directly Common Core. And yet the same man who wrote the Common Core standards has rewritten the test for history, leaving out George Washington, leaving out other founding fathers, bringing in statements of anti-Americanism and views that are a worldview that puts America in a negative light. But that's gotten a lot of heat, fortunately, on the national level, and Mr. Coleman is in some trouble. He's in trouble with those of us who are awake and aware. I just read Education Week before I came here tonight, a new story. And this is not a conservative newspaper by any means. Education Week is the education reporting for the nation. And they're reporting 60% of the people being polled across America oppose Common Core state standards. Now that's not going to be everywhere, but it is growing. And the concern, of course, for them is, what did we do wrong to make it so oppositional? We need to slow it down. We need to tweak it. We need to improve it. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's a system, not just a set of standards. Our students are to be processed through a process, and at the end of the process, they are to all be equal with the outcomes or results. Instead of, in America, we've always had equal opportunity to learn. For every student, every child, to learn to the best of their individual ability without limit. In fact, in World War II, men who didn't complete beyond the 6th grade went to World War II, came back from the war, and went into college after taking a GED. They had such good basic education, and they studied on their own to complete the understanding and knowledge in the other areas. They passed that test, and many became people who were college educated. This is the opportunity. There was no, well, you missed the boat back in 6th grade, so it's all over for you. But in the 1990s, I ran for state superintendent of schools in 1994 in Oklahoma. I received 49.5% of the vote statewide. And it was a grassroots campaign with less than $100,000. This was before the Tea Party, obviously. But grassroots politics in America is the way we have been able to have a voice. We have representative government. We still have state constitutions, as well as our national constitution. So in 1994, when I got 49.5% of the vote, the issue was the Clinton administration was forcing down our throats the same agenda that we're getting now through the National Governors Association. It didn't work through the Clintons. And you know that President Bill Clinton had some other interests that distracted him from completing his agenda for the country. Robert Reich, his Secretary of Education, said that he was locked in the cabinet. He wrote a book entitled it that. He was the Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich, and Reich was very unhappy because they had a lot of plans that didn't get put into place. Some of those plans are laid out. In fact, 18 pages of plans were laid out in a letter to Hillary by a man named Mark Tucker. It's M-A-R-C, Mark Tucker. He is the National Director for the National Center for Education and the Economy. It's a Carnegie Institute Foundation in the Washington, D.C. area. Mark Tucker is now working directly with the nonprofit organization Achieve, which was sanctioned by the Governors Association to write Common Core state standards. Mark Tucker said in the letter to Hillary Clinton in the 90s, when Clinton was elected president, that this is wonderful. He's elected, and now we can do the plans we've been working on, along with David Rockefeller. He names the people. Now, this is in our congressional record. This isn't some made-up story. It's pretty far out, I'll guarantee you. But in the congressional record, it's there. There is a plan for cradle-to-grave control of the economy and education. Hillary Clinton served on the board for Mark Tucker's National Center, along with David Rockefeller and a man named Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is the head of Achieve now, and has been from the beginning. Achieve wrote Common Core state standards. David Coleman was one of the authors of the English language arts part of the standards. He's the one that's rewritten the AP history test. Is this beginning to sound like an intimate group of friends and social engineers that are having a great time on the top to press down a control system in our states, and unfortunately our governors fell into deception? I wrote an article that's in the alabama.com, it's al.com, you may have seen that, entitled States Led into Common Core Deception. Because governors, when they came into office, thought when they went to the NGA, their National Governors Group, and heard about this wonderful plan for education, this was all a new idea that they were getting to have a part in and help roll out. You know, implement a new, wonderful improvement. And without research, that's all they know about it. And it's real hard to imagine how bad it really is. But ELA, English Language Arts, Common Core State Standards, which are in law in Alabama, in Florida, in most other states, except those who have rejected it, including Oklahoma, we did repeal Common Core state standards from our law this year. And prior to that, 45 states originally signed on. A few others have also been getting off of it. But Common Core state standards include English language arts, we know this, addition and then subtraction. Subtraction is reverse of addition, right? And you can check your answer by adding back what you subtracted. It all makes sense. But these children in elementary school are being given these long processes for math to where they cannot calculate. And they don't even know what they're doing. But if they learn and memorize the process, I thought we weren't supposed to memorize. Oh yeah, memorize the process. But don't memorize the facts and quickly calculate. Okay, that's a general description of the math. Go online and look at YouTube. Go online and enter Common Core math. You'll find plenty of examples. Then in English language arts, the students in elementary school are not given 40% up to 50% of the reading material is cut out. Instead of reading stories and literature, poetry, having time for teachers to read literature to develop listening vocabulary skills that then help with reading, especially those children from low language homes and environments. Instead of as much time to do that, half of it's cut out, and they're given dry instructional material. This is supposed to be preparing them to be workers. Workers for the future. Corporations want workers that can do certain skills when they come into the workplace. These have been identified by the Common Core standards writers, and they've written things into elementary through 12th grade that they believe are good skills for kids to have. Now, there's no proof. There's no research. These are not proven. This is all an experiment. By the time they get to the 12th grade, or even quicker, like 10th grade, they transition to 70% of the literature is cut out. The stories, the classical books, Western civilization is found in our literature. History, rich cultural understanding. There is so much about who we are as a people. Our life, even history, is understood through literature much better than only a history book. So that's being cut out, and in some states like Utah, where this has advanced pretty far, very far in certain areas with the implementation, much further than where we got in Oklahoma. In Utah, I've seen United Nations brochures, EPA manuals. This is the kind of indoctrination that's coming in as instructional, informational material to prepare global workers. That's what they say. Now, English language arts and math cover the basics. History, science, social studies, citizenship, all of these areas are planned, and you can read it in the documentation, they are planned to be integrated into English language arts and math. So you find math problems that aren't about math. For example, there's one I've seen recently in Florida that was where the equal sign is, the students are instructed that the results are fair. 2 + 2 = 4, and that's fair. Equal is fair. Do we hear a political view in that? I do. And it's written and repeated in the language on the worksheet in the math book. Now, that's just one example. I could go on and on. I just want to give you a taste in a short amount of time of what these standards are. English language arts and math. Now, you can say, oh, they're just standards. Well, they're bad enough, okay, by themselves. And if you're not going to teach what the standard is, why do we have the standard there? So that alone could change curriculum, even if you don't have it in your books yet, if that's the standard and that's adopted by the state, and it is in law right now in Alabama. But in addition to that, we have testing. The testing is being controlled directly by the federal government now, for the first time ever. The federal government has not completely, totally controlled what goes in the testing. But last spring, in April of 2013, the Federal Department of Education announced they will review and revise the testing items for Common Core. Now, Common Core is copyrighted by the National Governors Association. They own the copyright. So although it's in law in Alabama, Florida, and other states, you don't own that. And no matter what your State Department of Ed, your legislature does to rename yours, as Lucas said, it doesn't matter what they're called. You've got to see what's in the law and what that actually is. Common Core state standards is in your law. It is what I'm talking about. Those standards are going to be tested this year for the first time across the nation.